There's a lie that society has been selling men for decades. The lie is that if you haven't made it by a certain age, you've already missed your chance. If you're not successful in your 20s, you're behind. If you're not wealthy in your 30s, you failed. If you're rebuilding in your 40s, people quietly assume something went wrong. But what if the opposite is true? What if some men don't succeed early because they're not supposed to? What if the years where nothing seems to happen are actually the years where the most important transformation is taking place? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of early success creates fragile men. It creates men who win before they've been tested. They get the money before they develop discipline. They get attention before they develop confidence. They get status before they develop character. And then life eventually asks them the question they were never prepared to answer. Who are you when everything you built disappears? Some men collapse. Other men become dangerous. The difference is not talent, it's psychology. The men who succeed later in life often develop something that early winners never had to build: depth. They've been humbled. They've been rejected. They've watched opportunities pass them by. They've had moments where nobody believed in them. And instead of breaking, those experiences rewired them. This video is about the mindset behind those men. The men who look like overnight successes at 40, 50, or even 60. But the reality is, they weren't overnight successes. They were decades in the making. The first thing you need to understand is that society rewards speed. We worship young entrepreneurs, young athletes, and young millionaires. We see someone become successful at 20 and assume they're ahead. But we rarely talk about the psychological price of becoming successful too soon. Because success is not just about getting something, it's about being able to carry something. A man can receive success before he has the emotional foundation to handle it, and that creates problems. Imagine giving a teenager $1 million. The money isn't the achievement. The ability to manage that money is. The same thing applies to confidence, influence, relationships, and power. A lot of men who succeed later spent their younger years building the internal machinery required to maintain success. Nobody sees that part. They only see the result. They see the business, the career, the transformation, and the lifestyle. They don't see the years where that man was waking up early when nobody cared. They don't see the failures. They don't see the sacrifices. They don't see the nights where he questioned whether he was wasting his life. But those moments are not wasted. Those moments are construction. Pressure creates structure. A diamond does not become valuable because it avoided pressure. It becomes valuable because it survived it. The same thing happens with men. Some men need more time because they are becoming someone capable of handling what they eventually achieve. And here's where things become uncomfortable. Struggle is not always a disadvantage. Sometimes struggle is the greatest advantage a man can have, because struggle removes illusions. When everything is easy, people create fake versions of themselves. They think they're disciplined because things are going well. They think they're confident because everyone approves of them. They think they're talented because nobody has challenged them. But failure introduces a brutal question. Who are you when nobody is clapping? That question changes men. A man who has experienced failure and continues moving forward develops something different. He becomes internally motivated. He stops needing constant approval. He stops waiting for permission. He stops looking around asking, do people believe in me? Because eventually he realizes it doesn't matter. Nobody is coming to save him. Nobody is going to hand him the life he wants. And strangely enough, that realization creates freedom. The man who has already lost everything becomes harder to control. He's not chasing validation anymore. He's chasing mastery. That's why some men become unstoppable later in life. Not because they suddenly discovered a secret, because they finally stopped caring about the things that were holding them back. One of the biggest psychological shifts that happens with age is the death of needing approval. When you're younger, you often measure yourself through other people. Do they respect me? Do they think I'm successful? Do they see my potential? But eventually, something changes. A man who has been through enough disappointment stops performing. He starts building. And that is a terrifying shift, because society teaches men to chase appearances. Look successful. Look confident. Look like you have everything figured out. But the men who succeed later often abandon that game. They stop trying to look successful and they focus on becoming successful. That's a huge difference. One is external, one is internal. A young man might spend hours trying to convince people he's important, while an older man who has learned the game spends those hours becoming important. He understands that attention is not achievement. Likes are not respect. Talk is not results. The world is full of people announcing what they are going to do. The rare people are the ones quietly doing it. And late success men often become dangerous because they become comfortable being underestimated. They know what it feels like to be ignored. And instead of being destroyed by it, they use it. Being underestimated becomes fuel. Another trait successful late bloomers develop is patience. Not passive patience, strategic patience. They understand something most people never learn. Life compounds. Your habits compound. Your skills compound. Your relationships compound. And your reputation compounds. But most people quit before the compound effect begins. They want proof too early. They plant a seed and dig it up every week to check if it's growing. Successful men understand seasons. They understand that some chapters are about planting. Some chapters are about building. And some chapters are about harvesting. The mistake many people make is judging their entire life based on one chapter. They say, I'm 35 and I haven't succeeded yet. But compared to what? A fictional timeline society created? A timeline designed to make people fall or feel behind? The truth is, your life is not a race against someone else's clock. It's a mission. And some missions take longer because they require more development. A man who succeeds at 50 may have spent 30 years becoming the person who could actually succeed. The achievement happened at 50. The transformation started decades earlier. The biggest difference between men who fail permanently and men who rise later is identity. Most people try to change their results without changing themselves. They want more money but keep the same habits. They want better relationships but keep the same emotional patterns. They want success but protect the same comfort zones. Late bloomers eventually understand the old version of themselves cannot create the new life they want. Something has to die. The excuses, the victim mindset, the need to impress everyone, the fear of starting over, the obsession with being right. Transformation requires letting go. And that process can be painful because people don't just lose bad habits, they lose identities. A man who spent 20 years believing he was unlucky has to confront the possibility that he was simply unprepared. A man who blamed everyone else has to accept responsibility. A man who waited for the perfect opportunity has to admit he was afraid. That level of honesty is rare, but it's also powerful, because once a man stops lying to himself, he becomes incredibly difficult to stop. The reason some men succeed later in life is simple. They finally become the man who can handle success. They stop chasing shortcuts. They stop comparing their journey. They stop needing everyone to understand them. They become focused, disciplined, patient, dangerously consistent. And the world often mistakes that transformation for luck. People say, he got lucky. No. They didn't see the years before the breakthrough. They didn't see the failures. They didn't see the lessons. They didn't see the rebuilding. They only saw the final chapter. But successful men know something most people never understand. Your timeline does not determine your potential. Your discipline does. Your past does not determine your future. Your decisions do. Maybe you're not behind. Maybe you're being built. Maybe the years that felt like rejection were actually preparation. Maybe the real reason success took longer is because you needed to become someone capable of keeping it. The world celebrates overnight success, but the most dangerous men are usually the ones who spent years quietly becoming someone nobody could ignore. If this video resonated, hit like and subscribe for more content. And remember, the goal isn't to become successful quickly. The goal is to become the kind of person success cannot destroy. Life. Just live it.